Hello and welcome back to Like Maria. Today I'm going to do another 5 quotes from the AQA GCSE Poetry Cluster, Power and Conflict. I've got my book here. You should have yours too. We're going to look at Kamikaze by Beatrice Garland. So let's get started. So my first quote is line 5 and 6, and it's simply a one-way journey into history. And here we have really the crux of the whole poem. The kamikaze pilot is supposed to make his journey of a one-way journey into history be written into the history books and glorified. He embarked at sunrise and he's got his samurai sword and he's going to be a warrior and he's going to write himself into his history books. But of course, the idea is that he uses his plane as a weapon and he will not return to his family. So that is one reading of that line. Of course, the other reading is that actually he wrote himself into the history of his family in quite a bad way, according to them. That he shamed his family, but he wrote himself into the history by subverting what a kamikaze pilot should do. And he actually returns. So he kind of makes a bad history for his family and is written out of history there. So one could argue that he doesn't make a journey into history. He fails to make history, but he does make a personal history that affects his family in a significant way. So do look at that quote. Think about this idea of a journey into history and also about his physical journey in the plane. My second quotation is at line 10, and actually you could pick many of these. I'm going to talk about the beautiful description here. Little fishing boats strung out like bunting on a green-blue translucent sea. The pilot looks down and sees fishing boats. He uses a simile, or the poet uses a simile in their head in order to describe this, like bunting. Like something that you hang out to celebrate, something summery, something for a party, or a child's image as well. We might have bunting in a nursery or at a child's party. It's on a green-blue translucent sea. This is the pilot looking down, seeing things in a very innocent, positive light, seeing the beauty of the world, seeing fishing boats, later seeing fish and just the beauty of nature. Flashing silver, all these really positive images. You could pick any one. I'm picking the bunting because it's got the simile in there, like bunting. And it shows that the pilot is able to see universal beauty in the world in a way that as a soldier, as a kamikaze pilot, he was not trained to do. And this is the first inkling we get that there may be some regret about his mission. My third quotation is in that fourth stanza, and it's a reference really to the fishing boats coming home. The turbulent inrush of breakers bringing their father's boats safe, yes, grandfather's boats safe to the shore. Even if you just remember that phrase, safe to the shore, the pilot has a prompted memory here of waiting for his grandfather to come home from the day's fishing or the week's fishing and wanting the grandfather to come home safely. So there is an image of returning to one's family. There's an image of returning to safety. There's an image of coming home generations before. And this really provides us with a turning point in the poem. The pilot is loaded up with this image of his grandfather, and as a child he is looking out for his grandfather. And this reminds him of the possibility of actually going home. And of course, this is exactly what he does. So at line 24-25, this image of returning home is kind of like a custom that happens in normal life. And the pilot is reminded about this as he looks down at the fishing boats and at the shore and thinks I must fit into normal life. I mustn't do this kamikaze mission. My fourth quote is in lines 34-35. It runs over the line, they treated him as though he no longer existed. Now here, the adults, they, treated him as if he was obliterated. he may as well have died, because they are pretending not to know him, not to recognise his presence. And I think it's really important here to notice that the they is the adults, but the we, the children, still chatted and laughed. So this shame that it's brought on the family exists because the adults perpetuate it. The young children, in their innocence, don't know about it, but of course they grow to know about it. And in the next line we see they too learned about this. So this is really poignant here. If he had completed his mission, he would have no longer existed, and they would have been exactly the same almost, but probably they would have accepted that he existed and heralded him and congratulated him. So a very different outcome, because he has brought shame on the family. And this is very poignant here, that he was completely erased from history, and instead of being written into the history books, he was written out of his family's existence. Quote 5. And sometimes, she said, he must have wondered which had been the better way to die. So here we've got the mother, the daughter of the kamikaze pilot and the mother of the voice in the poem, wondering herself if the father had this internal thought and regretted his deeds of coming home to the family. Which had been the better way to die? To die as a hero in a kamikaze mission, or to die to one's family and one's children and one's society because you refuse to do the kamikaze mission, and you refuse to do the damage to all that nature and beauty of the world that you look down upon, and you refuse to damage the families that you would have damaged. And the kamikaze pilot, even though he didn't accept the mission, has died an emotional death, and a death inside him, and his honour has died with him. And that's really what this poem is about. Okay, so I hope you've got some good ideas based on those quotations. Learn those 5 before the exam and you'll be fine. Please like and subscribe for more videos on poetry and your other GCSE texts.